Hey there. Welcome to GSPN's Milwaukee Bucks playoff post-game coverage. We're back. The Bucks are back too. Not just playing, but playing well again as they take a 1-0 series lead over the Indiana Pacers, winning 109-94. Indiana scoring 94 in regulation. Maybe the most unlikely outcome possible. I am Ty Windisch of the Eurostep, joined as always by my lovely compatriot Rohan Katti and by our chum, Packers talker, as well as resident Bucks podcaster, Jordan Treske. Jordan, Rohan, we're presented by Prize Picks. We're a part of Blue Wire and the Eurostep Podcast Network. Every time it's not the standard Eurostep intro, I get tripped up, but I can't forget our fine friends at Prize Picks. Jordan, Rohan, I think I know, but how's it going?
Rohan.
I'm doing pretty well, you know.
Doing okay?
You see, here's the thing, Ty and Jordan and all of our listeners. I was not excited for today at all.
Oh,
I was dreading today. I was doing as much mental gymnastics as I could to avoid coming into reality with the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks were starting their postseason today. I was recalcitrant to that fact, just to bring
not
it
this
back.
damn recalcitrant again.
But yeah, I was avoiding accepting that reality. I was stubborn to it. And then when it finally came time, I mean, you couldn't script it any better.
Did it come Dame time? Are
It
you
did.
saying?
I did. It did. But I'm doing well. But before I get into it, Jordan, how are you doing?
I did very well. I was like Rohan, and I can't pronounce the word that he broke out again. Recalcitrant. Okay, there it is.
Nailed it.
I had a long case of playoff anxiety
Mm.
because if everyone remembers correctly, the last time the Bucks were in the playoffs, it didn't go so well. And ever since then, I just feel like they have been searching for something that they could not have, that they didn't really find for much of the regular season, and certainly not down the stretch. So it wasn't like I had high expectations. And then all of a sudden, Damian Lillard just like was like a defibrillator. I can't say that word.
You nailed recalcitrant. You
I
nailed
know.
recalcitrant, and then the defib got you.
The defib. He defibbed me awake, and suddenly my spirit left out of my body as he
Mm-hmm.
was hitting heat check threes, and the Bucks, and he almost had as many points as the Pacers did in the first half. So I was on cloud nine at halftime, and yeah, just very good to see this Bucks team kind of put together a really what we've all been waiting for the last, I don't know, month. It feels
Yeah.
like.
On and off. I mean, there's the Thunder high, the Celtics high, and then in between, so many lows. You know, Dame, some big news at halftime. His PTO request was granted. He did not need to clock in the second half of this game. Dame had 35 points in the first half, most by any Milwaukee Bucks player ever in a half in the playoffs. Or is it ever or in a first half? Was Giannis very even in his 50
I think
burger?
at least in a first half.
I know the NBA account tweeted it. Now I forget exactly which one. Obviously, Giannis had the amazing game to close out the NBA Finals when the Bucks were NBA champions once. That was cool. But Dame, I mean, the second half aside was incredible. 35 points, 6 rebounds, just 3 assists, but 11 of 24 from the field, 6 of 11 from deep. Many of them, as you said, Jordan, heat checks. I mean, he got a little bit of space. He was pulling. Also got to the free throw line 7 times, made all 7 of them. The Bucks, uncharacteristically, 13 of 13 from free throw. And I know Giannis is out, and that's part of it.
That's a big factor.
I mean, but still, this is a team where not just Giannis is flaky from the line here and there. It helps that Khris and Dame took 11 of the 13, and those guys are excellent free throw shooters. But just an amazing tone-setting game from Dame. I mean, coming in, my narrative was this game one is the biggest game one, round one, probably just the biggest game one they've had in the Giannis era. Because, I mean, they won the title. They tricked off almost every game one, right? Like, it wasn't – the game ones didn't matter as much. But this one, when it's like the vibes were so bad to end the regular season and the Giannis health thing is up in the air, and the last thing you want to do is look sorry game one and then have this thought like, is Giannis going to rush back? Does he need to rush back? What is his mindset? The best thing for the Bucks would be coming out, take care of business, and we'll get to how they could really change the series if they can pull off a game 2 win without him. He was doubtful. Maybe he plays game 2. We'll see. I would
Doubtful?
guess. Yeah, doubtful. I would guess it's less likely now that he plays game 2. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think I don't know. I think you push it out and try to make sure he's truly feeling good after anytime you have a calf injury of any variety, a soleus as it is. But Dame really felt like he could feel the importance of it and stepped up huge to set the tone. I mean, the Bucks had a huge lead at halftime. The Pacers carved into it in a big way in the second half. The offense cooled down. We'll kind of talk about that and how to avoid that. But still, incredible to see Dame be the superstar we've been begging for and give the Bucks this win in game 1.
Yeah, it was great to see that explosion from Dame it was otherworldly. Like Jordan was saying, it was overjoyed on cloud nine. I was jumping up and down. Like, how could you not contain yourself when you have a Bucks point guard doing this? I know this stat has been thrown out there a lot already, but I'll say it here. In one half, Damian Lillard outscored the playoff career highs for the Bucks for Drew Holiday and Eric Bledsoe.
Oh, I knew it was going to be.
In one half, in his first
I thought
half.
about looking it up too. I'm a bastard too. I was like, is Drew ever?
No. In one half, he has outscored that. Either of their playoff career high as a member of the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was frankly something that we have never seen in the Giannis era in the last ever for a Bucks point guard. I mean, in this high leverage of a situation, like you mentioned, Ty, this is probably one of the biggest game 1 in the Giannis era, one of the biggest game 1s in franchise history for the Milwaukee Bucks. And you come out there down your superstar, the best player or second best, however you want to categorize it, to ever play for your franchise. He's not out there. You trade for a guy exactly for these moments, and he will tell you that on the court. Damian Lillard goes out there and does exactly what he needs to do. He goes out there, he puts on a show, he puts the team on his back and delivers a game 1 victory for the Milwaukee Bucks. What else could you ask for?
Yeah, I mean that right there just kind of sums up the whole experience. It was enough for the Bucks to obviously get the win, even with Indiana making a second half surge that probably was somewhat predictable, and also predictable that the Bucks would cool off, and especially Dame not scoring anything in the second half. That would be a key going into game 2. But I just thought it was so important for them to put their best foot forward and to echo how important this game 1 was. It's not like when we've talked about game 1s in years past, even last year against Miami, there's always that just kind of okay, you're feeling each other out, and eventually someone's going to make their run. And the Bucks, I mean, notoriously in game 1s have just been not great, especially in first round series. And I messaged our chat during this flurry of Dame threes and everything like that. It was already the best game 1 in the first round series the Bucks have played probably since the Pistons series. Obviously the bubble was what it was, but even the game 1 against the Heat after getting trounced by the Heat in the bubble, that went down to the wire. You know what I mean? That took Khris heroics to really propel them over. Game 1 against Chicago was tight. I don't think they lost. That was not the game that they lost, but it was not convincing at all either.
No.
Obviously last year was what it was too. There's just always a tightness that just comes with how they just start their playoff run. And for me to see Dame, carrying a lot of injuries, and his status this whole week there's been a lot of attention just not having Giannis. It was just well, Dame's the one that's actually going to play. He's preparing to play. What is he going to look like if he's not? I mean, he went live on practice on Friday.
I think they had 4 practices. The broadcast said he partook in one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's probably better off that they did it that way. Considering his performance, but it still naturally brings up questions of how he's going to look. And that first half was enough to just be okay, we're good. Yeah. He's doing things like Rohan said that no other Bucks point guard has ever done. And really, that Pacers defense, he made them look silly with what he was doing. And obviously they course corrected it, but if he can tap into that and do the easy stuff like that, it's going to get harder and tighter for him to kind of maneuver in more tighter coverage. But like, just God, it was just insane to see that confidence. You just wanted him to show all the time. He doesn't have Giannis out there. There is not like that, okay, give and take. He could take anything that he wants and just run with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the adjustment was real, and I don't like, and this has come up before. Sometimes the Bucks will play into the other team's hands too much when they're trying to take away Dame, I feel, and just be like, okay, we'll take the quote unquote smart shot every time. And it's like, that's fine. It's the playoffs now. If AJ Green is going to miss all these threes and tough, lights were bright for AJ Green. Had a fine defensive game, played pretty well on McConnell, but offensively, I mean, AJ missing 3 wide open threes. We're not used to seeing that ever.
The same spot as well. It was weird.
I mean, the lights were bright. I hope to see a bounce back in game 2, but I thought giving him 5 minutes, giving him the chance to, exactly enough time to see how that was going to go for him shooting was the right call by, I'm going to say it, Doc Rivers. Doc. I'm saying it. Rohan?
You're getting no argument from me right now. Right now.
Let's finish the Dame, and I guess this is the biggest negative on Doc, but I am going to say Doc. They play into the other team's hands too much, and Dame is just like barely shooting in the second half. And somebody, I voiced that, and someone goes, "Oh, you always want to write off or blame coaching when Dame is being passive." And it's like, I mean, Dame is being doubled and triple teamed all the time, passing out of it, and then they face guard him 100% of the time. I mean, Nembhard existed on both ends of the floor. His sole mission in life, stay in Dame's face. That's literally like the Rick and Morty thing when it's like I exist to serve butter. Like, he existed to annoy Damian Lillard. That's all he was doing. And he did a good job of it in the second half, not so much in the first half. But the Bucks just let it happen too much. Just like, all right, fine, we'll do Pat Bev, Brook Lopez, 4-on-4 pick and roll. It's like, it's still Dame. Like, you can't let him go that cold. And then I think I think it was they kind of got him some shots later in the third quarter, but just for too long, he just wasn't shooting at all. And it's just too easy to go cold. And I think that's exactly what happened. So I hope in game 2, assuming it's going to be him and not Giannis again, that they don't let that happen at any point for a full half, right? Like, it's great that he had the first half. It was awesome. You got to be a little more consistent half to half, especially without Giannis out there. And that, I think, was my biggest frustration in the game. But overall, I thought Doc coached very well. We didn't see Gallo, over any of the other players, which I always thought, we've talked, he uses Gallo as a big. This is a smaller Pacers team. You don't need more bigs. But with Giannis out, you never know where the rotation would go. We didn't see Gallo. He has a fresh mohawk. Some people wanted to see him. It looks good.
Does it?
I think so. Come on, Rohan. He's a nice guy.
I don't have anything against Danilo Gallinari. I'm sure he is the nicest man in the world.
He's a very nice guy.
You're a close personal friend. No issue.
My buddy.
I have no issue with him. I'm sure you're a great guy, Gallo. It's 2024.
He probably is listening because we are buds.
It is 2024. I mean, what are we doing?
You're anti-Mohawk?
I think I'm anti-Mohawk for Gallo specifically.
Wow. See, I don't think you're understanding he's a nice guy. Regardless, Gallo didn't play. I thought I was uneasy with the amount of Beasley minutes after he had an ugly, jacked up 3 that led to a Pacers run out. But I did think he cleaned it up after that. Defensively, still a journey. A roller coaster where the high is like, oh, that was a pretty capable way to give up a bucket. And the low is, how can you even get beat by TJ McConnell that bad? But he hit some big threes. I mean, I will say that. And the Bucks needed it. They needed him to go down. I thought Jay Crowder played well. I thought Jay would play more, frankly. But overall, just speaking on Doc for now, and then we'll get to player to player, thought he managed the rotation well. I thought he managed the foul trouble for Khris and Bobby well. Bobby ends up fouling out. Khris almost did too. We never saw minutes without one of Khris or Dame, which, again, these are the things what years past for Doc when he would get roasted. It was all bench lineups or just crazy substitution patterns, leaving guys out there too long. And obviously things are going right, and it's easier when things are going right. But I did think first and second half, outside of not getting Dame enough good shots in that second half, I thought he did the coaching stuff pretty well overall.
Yeah, I've got no qualms with it. I mean, there were some inconsistencies here and there. Like, for example, if you take Middleton out with 4 minutes left due to foul trouble, like I don't understand what that is. Uh, and like you mentioned, some of the Beasley minutes were a little here and there. Maybe Boss Man. I mean, he's back to Boss Man, by the way, for
Yeah,
now.
he earned that. Big three. Was that fourth quarter?
It
Big
was.
three.
And that was a
Big
huge,
three.
huge thing.
Yeah, it was a huge three in the fourth quarter, but
The
maybe he
missed
could leave.
layup was classic, and not boss man.
Yeah, it was a journey. But I thought he played really good minutes. Maybe he could eat more into those Malik Beasley minutes, maybe some into the AJ Green minutes, depending on how this rotation looks going forward and how the players look going forward in this series. But yeah, no real qualms with Doc. It seems like, and this is something that we as a group haven't really talked about. This week off during practice, all the reports were they were just going so hard at practice, getting 4 practices in this week. It looks like they were just using the young guys as a scout team to just run all day, every day during practice to sort of simulate this fast-paced Pacers team. And you could see that really come to fruition because they were able to dictate the pace. They were able to contain the Pacers' speed. They weren't letting them run out in transition. They were controlling the ball, making the right decisions, and not getting flustered by the Pacers' frenetic energy like they had this regular season. So great preparation, great execution, and still some stuff that's able to be cleaned up. So welcome back, Doc.
The Pacers were held to 12 fast break points, which
That's
is more than
huge.
Milwaukee's 7, but that's a manageable number.
Yeah.
Also, here's the one that I think this might tell you how the game went in every game. The Bucks bench outscored Indiana's bench by a point. That had not been the case. In my pod with Alex Golden, he had talked about most of the Pacers' wins. The bench outscored Milwaukee by a ton.
I believe they're
In this
number one in
game,
bench points in the NBA.
yeah,
Yes.
I think the Mathurin loss is big there for sure. But also, I do think the new look of their team is just like, the spacing is not as good. The offense is more around the rim. And I don't know if it's an injury for Halliburton. I know he was injured. I mean, I thought it was quite a while ago. People are saying, were the lights too bright? I'm doing this. A lot of people are saying the lights were too bright. I'm not saying it, but a lot of people. I don't know what it is, but I don't totally buy the injury thing because he'll drive and fly through the air and throw an acrobatic pass to the corner 5 possessions in a row. It's like you can do all that, just shoot. Bobby Portis is guarding you one-on-one. They kept getting these matchups where it's Portis or Beasley, and I'm like, oh, okay. Or Dame. He's gonna cook now. He's gonna do something. And he shot a good percentage. I mean, I think what was he like? Good radio. 4 for 7. I mean, 1 for 3 from deep. But if you're the Bucks, I mean, anytime Halliburton's going to score 9, you're like, yeah, have 10 assists. We don't care. The team doesn't have enough offensive juice outside of Siakam for him to play like Rondo, and that's what he did in this game. But anyway, Jordan, we didn't get to what? I mean, this is a classic Rondo stat line.
I know. I love how it's classic playoff Rondo stat line can either be really good or really bad depending on the context, which I think is hilarious.
Probably not enough steals or blocks. I don't think we got to Jordan on coaching. So you can, Jordan, if you want to touch on coaching and Halliburton.
I will more than willing to talk about Tyrese Halliburton because this was a weird playoff game. Really weird playoff game.
First playoff game.
First playoff game, which I've always just kept in the back of my mind of how is he going to look? And he didn't put the fear of God in me, which is very different than how it was December and January when they played 89 times between each
It was
other.
essential.
Yeah, and
It's a fear of God joke.
Oh, there you go.
Is this his clothing brand?
Yeah.
Also, I laughed because I saw Andrew's comment. Many people are coming up to Ty, grown men with tears in their eyes, asking if the lights were too bright.
The lights were too bright. I'm ready. That's terrible for my picture.
Jordan just had an eclipse.
So, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's suffering Tyrese Halliburton. But I was just really just shocked at I mean, it was so easy that the things that the Bucks could correct from how they played against the Pacers and just being set defensively, getting back on defense, like the things that the Indiana has feasted on everybody this year, but especially in those Bucks games where they just got easy points by taking advantage of the disorganization of the Bucks defense under Adrian Griffin. When the Bucks were just kind of like asserting themselves, picking, Pat Bev pretty much. If Halburn was on the floor, Pat Bev has him.
I'm a big fan of the Pat Bev playoff experience.
I know. I was talking about our Win at 6 this week previewing the series. I was like, I think Pat Bev might be like the third most important player, just because if he cuts the head of the snake off or slows down the head of the snake, that's the win, because we know how playoff basketball is. The thing I did not anticipate with Halliburton, and certainly this Pacers team, is they even threw a stat on the Valley broadcast, but the inexperience of their roster in the playoffs is like 182 combined games, 1,500 something points. And I'm thinking James Johnson has a lot of those points, and he's not even playing. You know what I mean? Like Miles Turner has been. Yeah, Siakam is obviously an exception. Miles Turner went a couple first round series, but beyond that, and maybe Aaron Naismith when he was with the Celtics.
Doug McDermott's been here before.
Yes, he has. I just was.
Shout out to the Pacers' deft coaching advantage. Rick Carlisle, who has won less playoff series in the last 12 years as Doc has in the last 12 months, and is trotting Doug McDermott out there in real games.
He has a good pulse for timeouts. Let's just say that.
He's running out of them.
He's running out of them. But I was super surprised at just the fact that Halliburton was not even just looking at the hoop. Like even some of those points, like they were off a second chance. You know what I mean? Like he was at the right place at the right time. Like I don't know, maybe that shifts, but that might be the biggest key moving forward for Indiana offensively. Is Siakam can easily play and looked really good tonight. Give him credit, but Halliburton's got to figure a lot of stuff out.
He can't play like that. I mean, it is.
No.
If you're feeling good enough to play, you have to try and play like the player you are. And credit to Siakam, who we'll talk about. The Bucks need to find a better way to slow him down. Siakam was sensational. I mean, you can just hope he won't shoot that good again, and maybe. I mean, I do think he converted on a very high rate on jumpers, which is just hard to do. But he's a great player, so I think you need better answers too. A great Dame quote on missing the playoffs the last few years, courtesy of Eric Name. Not being in the playoffs, it sucked. Last year, I went to Coachella. I ain't ever been able to go to Coachella. Dame does not going to have time to go to Coachella this year. Also had the live on court, this is what y'all brought me here for, which is incredible. Awesome moment.
Just absolutely fires everyone up. I mean, how can you not be romantic about basketball when you have that type of stuff happening?
100%. Kelp had a good point. He has his actual name on YouTube, but I know it's Kelp. Pat Bev diving for a loose ball, kicking it to Malik for three. That's one of the moments that changes the game. And that was when the Pacers were starting to come back. Things were getting a little ugly. I don't know how he was able to do that all in one motion. And I mean, just going from like, oh, is he going to have to get this surgery and miss the playoffs, to he's starting and is a core Buck and is really important to what they're trying to do. I mean, what a ride. I mean, from him not being on the team to us being, especially me, a little underwhelmed when that was the trade deadline, right? All they did was trade for Pat Bev. Oh, what does this mean? And now it's like, oh my God, this is so important to the Bucks. I looked, they didn't allow less than 100 to Miami in any of the games last year. To allow less than 100 in your first playoff game when your defense was so bad for most of the year, and Indiana was number one in scoring, was number two in offensive rating to Boston, given the way they fell off. But still, number two. I mean, it's not like they fell off a whole cliff. Just a really nice defensive effort.
Especially to a Pacers team like that's the best offense in the league. I mean, you can't ask for anything better. There were a few times where they did look a little confused on defense. There were some miscommunications when guys were coming off screens. They were switching some actions and not switching other actions in the same possession. It was a little confusing to watch out there at times, but for the most part, they seem like a pretty cohesive unit on the defensive end, which is not something that you're used to saying about the 2023-2024 Milwaukee Bucks. which is just an incredible thing to happen
The
when you
Doc
get
get cooked.
he cooked. The operation was a success for Doc. I mean, it was
My favorite, I like when he goes right angle mode. I tweeted out,
so
that's
the
when you
whole
know
game.
stuff is
Right
getting real.
angle vote.
That's how you know stuff is getting real. Like the Pacers make this comeback, you just see Doc go, whoop.
What about the person who
That's when
stand
the
like
real
I
coaching
always
is
think about
happening.
what it's like for the fans sitting right behind him.
Okay, I've been wanting to tweet that joke for a very long time, and I could not find the right picture. I was like, yeah, I spent however many or however much money to sit courtside. I just see Doc Rivers' ass in my face.
Probably worth the price of admission. I mean,
Okay.
uh,
Another big stat, real quick. While I have the team stats up, I shared the fast break points one. Indiana only had 6 points off turnovers, and that's one that we had focused on before the series of like, live ball turnovers the Bucks can't afford, and they had turnovers in this game, but a lot of them were like, all right, ball slips out of bounds, threw it out of bounds. Like that still sucks, obviously, but you're not letting them run off of it, and that's
Yeah.
when like this Bucks defense. I think this is what I feel confident saying this Bucks defense. In the half court, as a set defense without giving up offensive rebounds. So like the first go at it, each trip in the half court, I think they're pretty good. They give up too many corner threes for my liking. I think some of it's on purpose, some of it isn't. But they're pretty good. They're physical. They're pretty good about taking away the paint again. Indiana had 40 points in the paint, so that is still pretty high. Milwaukee had 34, but Dame doing so much work from 30 feet kind of skews that number a little. But I think when the other teams get running in transition or when they get offensive rebounds, and that certainly happened too much for Indiana in this game too, that's when the Bucks defense can't hold up. And Milwaukee did a good job of limiting the live ball turnovers and limiting the dumb shots, although there were certainly some. Only 10 turnovers in this game, which is a very good number. And again, a lot of them were like Dame lost 2 out of bounds. Khris had, I think, 1, that he threw away. Bobby had some, I think 1 or 2 were a travel. Again, not ideal, not how you want to end a possession, but they kept them contained to not be cross-court pass picked off for a dunk. The kind of momentum shift and instant offense turnovers. So I just thought the focus was really good in this game.
I have a stat here.
I love stats.
The Pacers had the second worst offensive rating tonight that they've had all season long. The worst offensive rating was 97.2, and that came in a game where they allowed 155 points to the Boston Celtics. So, yeah, that kind of
Wait, they got destroyed in that game then, right?
they
If
did.
their
It was
offense and defense?
November 1st.
Oh, did anyone play or did no one play in that game?
I'm looking at it right now. Let's see.
I think that may have been nobody played, and I remember at the time being like, God, Boston, give it up. Come on. Ease up a little. That's rude.
they're
No
still
hell-
already dead.
No
Yeah.
Halliburton for sure. Bruce Brown was still on the team. The leading scorer of that night was TJ McConnell with 18. The pre-Siakam trade.
Yeah, I mean, before Siakam, no Halliburton, their offense was like, basically Carlisle had to just be MacGyver for them to score points.
Yeah.
Rohan, what was your next biggest takeaway or the next player you want to talk about most from this
Khris
game?
Middleton. Khris Middleton.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's
Yes.
Khris Middleton.
Masterpiece.
First of all, playoff Khris is still here. He would like to reintroduce himself to the party. What did he have? 23 points, efficient shooting. It was a great sign to be able to
Gotcha.
see.
23, 10, 4 assists, 9 of 14 from the field. Just 1 of 4 from 3, but we know the middies are falling. And a team-high 25, despite anchoring the non-Dame bench lineup,
Plus
which
25.
is a huge... Or what did I say? Did I say minus?
You just said 25.
Oh, yeah, plus 25. Thank you. Which I know I saw Frank Madden was good at pointing out like the specific runs and what the plus-minus was, but that was a huge swing. I mean, basically when Siakam checked out and it was Khris and friends, the lineup that had been touch and go for the Bucks, they got the job done.
And it was really important during that third quarter run as well. You could tell for a lot of the times when the Pacers were starting to bring this game back into what I think the most they got it down to was 14 or 12 in that second half. It was 12 points going into the fourth quarter. But you saw that when Indiana was trying to make a push, get it to single digits if they could, you see the reintroduction of Khris Middleton back into the lineup. really calmed things down for the Bucks. He was able to get a consistent scoring load on the offensive end because he was just going to work. He was taking the kids to school. He was putting them in their cars, strapping them in their car seats, and scoring on them. That's all he needed to do is get his back to the basket, hit his little turnaround, and that's exactly what you need Khris Middleton to do. You need him to be a consistent scoring option. You need him to be a guy when you need a bucket, he can go out there and get it. And not only that, he can facilitate on the offensive end. Don't have him dribble. That's one good thing the Bucks did not do. Was let
There were
Khris
a couple
Middleton.
possessions.
There were a couple, but they were limiting it.
They were
With Khris
limiting it.
Middleton bringing the ball up the court with pressure, they did not let that happen too many times. But yeah, Khris Middleton being able to calm this offense down when things get slow, when the team is in a little bit of a scoring drought, Khris Middleton can come, he can deliver. And previously, when Khris Middleton was not out there, that's usually Bobby's job. It's if you need to go get a bucket, let's get Bobby in post position. Let's set some screens, get him into a solid post position, throw him an entry pass, let him do his thing, get to work. That's something that is effective and worked really well for the Bucks. I thought Bobby had a fantastic game for the Bucks. We'll talk about him in a bit, but oftentimes it can be a little slow. It'll bog things down a little bit. Not to say that it's not effective. Like I said, he was great tonight. Khris Middleton gets things done a bit faster, a bit more efficiently, a bit more crisp, and allows the rest of the team to be in a rhythm as well. I can't speak enough about how important Khris Middleton is to this team. With no Giannis, you have Dame going thermonuclear, and you still need Khris Middleton. You still need him to be able to perform at the highest level in order for your team to succeed, and he did that.
Is it crisp spelled KHRISP?
You know it.
Nice. I ditto everything you said. Jordan, any Chris thoughts?
No, I mean, Dame's first half obviously was probably the most fun half of playoff basketball with the Bucks for I don't want to answer that
I
question.
would say I since the Boston series, I think there were some very fun halves. When they
Game 2
Were
against
they
Miami
always
last year was
fun?
pretty fun.
Yeah,
no,
that was
I never
fun.
had fun. No, I did not ever have fun in that series.
Game 2 was really fun.
It was fun,
Yeah,
but it was short lived.
yeah.
The thing to me was the most important minutes tonight were Indiana making the run. They bring it down to 12, a 12-point lead for the Bucks going into the fourth quarter. And Khris is that security blanket. Like, he had a back down, like, shimmy shake post, like, game shot of, I can't remember who it was over, but it was this ridiculous angle.
I think
I
it
think it
was
was Obi
Naismith.
Toppin.
Oh, it
was
was Toppin.
Toby,
Toppin.
yes,
Toppin.
okay. I knew it was not Naismith, and I thought it definitely was Toppin. And he just hit this shot. And I like Dave's threes are like you're just like standing up and you just want to like puff your chest out and be like, that's Superman. Khris Middleton doing that over Toppin is just like I'm laughing like an idiot just seeing him doing these things. And like he is so important, like not just to keep echoing what Rohan was saying, but like especially without Giannis, just having a guy that he's not the perfect ball handler in this stage of his career now, but when he can just kind of do the hey, let's let him cook kind of thing, the tough shot express, like that has not gone away. Even last year and during the playoffs of just how horrible that playoff run or that series, I shouldn't even just call it a run, was Khris is still doing vintage Khris things. And against inexperienced guys that, they know how Khris plays, but when you are doing it in a playoff setting and he just knows how to get his shot off at different angles and knows how to play the way he is. Again, even the stage where, he was not the most athletic guard or anything like that, but he's just so big and so disciplined with his craft of just like finding how to just shoot over the top of guys. Like, it's insane just how he can keep doing this for so long. Like, yeah, I don't know if I can't remember if that shot was specifically in the first half or during that run of just like, okay, they just needed to like calm everything down and regain composure of the game. But yeah, every shot of his was just essential to the Bucks of just kind of like, yeah, we can have the fireworks, but we just need to keep the pace and just kind of settle things down when we need to.
In that fourth quarter, he was 2 of 2 from 2, 1 of 3 from deep, and made 2 free throws, 7 points. The Bucks won his nearly 9 minutes by 11 points. Really was able to shut the door. Also in the fourth quarter, Patrick Beverly had 4 of his team-leading 8 assists in this game. The Bucks only had 21 assists as a team. Pat Bev had more than any 2 other Bucks combined in this game. I mean, obviously the defense is what people focus on with him, but you talked about Rohan, the Bucks not relying on Khris to bring the ball up all the time. That's because they let Pat Bev do it a bunch, because either the best defender is going to be obviously on one of Dame or Khris, and then if they're both on the floor, the best 2 defenders are going to be on those guys. So Pat Bev was able to pretty much with ease for most of the game bring the ball up the court unimpeded and then get the Bucks into actions, while Indiana was kind of like still running back over the court, like trying to keep an eye, 2, maybe 4 eyes on Dame. And the Bucks got a lot of good offense from that. I actually think they can do better. I was watching, and it's like, okay, they're getting okay shots, but the Pacers are giving you a 4-on-3 every time. I mean, if you're going to trap Dame, they're trapping Dame 90 feet from the basket. I mean, that's unheard of. So, for the people saying,
Bucks point guard?
For Dame was being passive. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, they're doubling him 90 feet away. Like, it's going to be hard to score 35 points in a half when they're doing that the whole half. But I actually think the Bucks could have even better offense off of that without Giannis, because it's like, it's 4-on-3. I mean, I think that's whatever practice time they have before game 2 should be working on that. Because I assume we're going to see the Pacers do the same things, because they had no other answer for Dame than throwing their basically like 2 defenders at him at all times when he's around the ball. And Milwaukee can, I think, open up even better shots. But Pat Bev was crucial in just being like the outlet, the valve to pull and bring the ball at the floor, run offense. I mean, 8 assists in 36 minutes. Also was plus 17. I thought a really nice game. We already talked about him a bit, 2 steals. But Pat Bev was really good offensively too, more so than 5 points on 2 for 5 shooting would tell you. Also hit a big 3 late in the game.
One thing, no, so,
that's that. That's the show.
In addition to Pat Bev being able to bring the ball up the court, this is one thing that popped into my head, was utilizing their backup point guard as well, Pat Connaughton,
Yeah,
to be able to be a release valve. But before we sort of shuffle along, let's talk about Bobby. Let's talk about Bobby.
Big Bob.
Big Bob. Big Bob was on. Wow, I can't talk. Big Bob was on. I mean, what else could you ask for? I mean, maybe to hit some threes, but that's a lot. That's a lot to ask for. Bobby Portis, he went on a personal 8-0 run in that half. He was the best thing about Bobby Portis, I will say. He had a great offensive performance. He was pretty solid on the defensive end.
He might have been their best Siakam defender in this game.
He might have been.
It was
okay.
It was interesting to see, if memory serves, Brook was on Siakam more generally, I would say. And Bobby was kind of that helper in the corner off of Turner to kind of neutralize the pick and pops and stuff like that. Which I thought was interesting.
It was. It almost worked. Siakam's midi was just on point. I mean, it was working a little, because it shocked me how little he looked at threes. I mean, Brook was guarding him and just saying, like, I'm just going to stand 15 feet away from you, man. Siakam, I don't think, did he take any threes in this game? He took 4. Wow, I do not remember. He's 1 for 4. I don't really remember that. I wonder how many were like catch and shoot or offensive rebounds. I don't remember many, at least coming when Brook was dropping off of him, when they were there for him. But he would dribble into the 18-footers and take those, and it just converted him at a very high clip. Siakam had 36 points, 15 of 25 shooting, only 5 of 10 from free throw, which really mattered in this game. It was pretty bad free throw performance from, I was going to say the Pacers. Oh, Miles Turner missed 2 as well. So yeah, they missed 7, left 7 points at the stripe, which obviously would have helped them a lot in this game. But I thought Bobby's reps on Siakam were maybe their best, because the Brook thing, it stopped him from getting to the rim, which is nice, but he was just able to make so many of those jumpers. You could still try it. I'm not saying never try it, and they obviously are going to always throw waves of defenders at star players, but I liked Bobby's defense as well.
Here's my thing about Siakam, and if we're talking about Bobby and his defense, I can maybe rope this in here as well. Siakam had a great game. Obviously, great player, like you mentioned, Ty. He had a consistent shot side. He was nailing all those shots. Even if he hits all those shots again, he's the type of player who's capable of doing that. All respect. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. If
I mean, yeah, he did have that amazing game, and they scored 94 points as a team. So that lends credence to your theory that it's not that bad.
I think it's okay because if you're able to at least keep Siakam in single coverage, prevent him from going to the rim, wall up from him going to the rim, creating like that pulling the defense in, you're fine. You can stay attached to your shooters. If you're the Bucks on defense, the other four guys on defense, you can wall off the paint. If you're Brook Lopez, you can keep doing that, and you're set. Realistically, you are. I mean,
I
as
think
well,
that's true.
if Siakam's consistently feeding on this diet of mid-range shots in isolation, that's not what's making this Pacers offense hum. It really isn't.
That's
And
anti-Pacers, really.
it truly is.
But it's anti-first half. It's anti-Pacers that we're used to seeing.
Yes,
Their
of
team
course.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really goes against the strength of the Indiana Pacers and what they're capable of doing and why they have been the best offense in the NBA, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing is, it's so funny seeing this be the answer for the Bucks and the answer for the Bucks against the Pacers, because we talk about Khris Middleton and his ability to create mid-range jumpers in isolation, and you see that as a good thing for the Bucks. But when you're talking about it with Siakam for the Pacers, you're like, oh no, this is not their best option, and it's true because you have to take into the account the context of both teams.
Well, yeah,
But
it's Chris is always the second thing for the Bucks.
correct.
You know, even with
Or
Giannis
third.
out, it's Dame. Yeah, and third. But like, you know, we're used to Chris, okay, Chris do something when Giannis is out. Now in this game, of course, it was Dame. But, you know, if the whole game was like, all right, Chris, please hit 60% of your twos, I don't think that would have gone very well for the Bucks either. I mean, there needs to be more than just that with, you know, the increased efficiency of NBA offenses.
For sure, for sure. But like if you're the Bucks defense, that's what you want Pascal Siakam to do. I mean, if you have to have one guy on this team kill you, I'd rather it be Siakam than Halliburton. Because when
Yeah.
Halliburton gets it going, he's getting everyone else involved. He's creating shots off the dribble. He's creating shots for his teammates, getting them in rhythm, wide open threes, bending a defense. That's what makes Tyrese Halliburton great. And if Siakam is the primary engine of this offense, I think that's a win for the Bucks.
It's very similar to when the Knicks are healthy. The Julius Randle going off games, you're like, I can live with that because that's him. Jalen Brunson's the guy that's, similar to Halliburton. He's the engine to the offense. Halliburton knows how to get the passes to guys at the right spots and the right shot pockets that they can, they're not overthinking threes. I thought that was the thing for me, not to overlook Bobby's game because, defensively he did do really well and offensively, like, it wasn't peak Bobby, but it was still really good enough. I just thought that's where, for the Pacers, as much as they have changed and as much as, we didn't see that for, the last couple months, for me to see, like, they're just kind of stalling out. You know what I mean? Like, their offense, it was already like early on, it was really hard for them to get up half court or up through like past the half court line and then just getting their actions. And obviously that cooled off over the course of the game, but I just thought the way that their offense just looked really, I think they're going to have a really big adjustment to playoff basketball based on what they have available to them. And again, the Halliburton injury or whatever is going on with him, if he is playing like that and they have to lead more on Siakam and the other guys have to hit shots, is like that's gonna skew in the Bucks' favor. The Bucks obviously have to hold up their end of the bargain to not let what happened in the third quarter especially happen again. But that's kind of setting the table for them to really feast and hopefully take game two in a very reassuring way.
Yeah, I think they need to be a little better on the shooters, on the help. I thought they got away with a bit of corners. I mean, I thought overall they forced the passes to the shooters that you live with most of the time. Nesmith is a guy that, I mean, we'll see how the rest of this series goes. was 1 for 7, and he was like a 40% 3-point shooter this season. But
he was double clutching.
he tailed off hard late in the year. Alex Golden told me on our crossover.
He was double clutching threes like when he's wide open. TJ McConnell has never been a good shooter. Miles Turner, like I know he has burned the Bucks, especially this year. But like
he was the only Pacer to make more than 1 3 in this game.
Like that's the thing is like, and we lived with this with Brook is that like when they're hitting those shots from deep, it's like that's adding on. Like you can't rely on that. And I felt like that's where their offense really just felt off kilter is that Miles Turner is just bombing these threes, and it's like they're not even close to going in. There were a lot of like long threes, which I thought, if anything, you're trying to find your rhythm, they'd be short, but they were firing with a lot of with a gusto, I would say.
I was kind of surprised at how scattered the Pacers' big rotation was. It felt like Carlisle could not find a group
there was
from the
no
bench
real
that he
answer. I'm glad you brought that up because it seemed like just a rotating cast of characters. You saw the Jalen Smith minutes were a disaster for Indiana. It was not him. Your boy Isaiah Jackson. I know
Two minutes.
He's had some
that to me was kind of just like, all right, something this wasn't working. Let's
and in
just
those
see
2 minutes
Jackson.
it wasn't good.
That didn't go good either. No. He had 1 foul. He had almost had a 2 trillion. That's all he recorded was a foul.
Amazing. But yeah, it just
seemed McBuckets played 3 times as many minutes.
It just seemed like a rotating issue of, okay, this is a very small Pacers team. We have a very good big man in Miles Turner. What happens other than that? That's the question. And it's when you go with this Bucks team who's down Giannis and is already like not have the most sort of expansive big rotation, you can kind of get away with it a bit. But just imagine what this big rotation looks like with Giannis.
Well, I think we probably see more Jackson. That's why I didn't expect to see him much early in the series because I do think his best use case for Indiana is a guy to throw at Giannis.
He's getting filleted by Bobby Portis.
Because he's not the way you need to defend those guys is so different that it makes sense to me. Like Isaiah Jackson's not tall, but he's strong and kind of athletic. Like that lends itself more to guarding Giannis than it does Bobby. And I had this conversation about Nesmith. Like Nesmith might actually almost have more utility on Giannis than on Khris. If the dribbling part is the scary part, but backing down, like he's just not tall enough. And like Khris can you talked about. Khris is hanging up his coat on the coat rack on the way to the office. And
like Klay Thompson hanging up his goatee when he goes home. Like,
but Giannis, you can get under him on drives and be annoying, and it's officiated a lot differently as well. But I think that plays into it. But yeah, just kind of a scatter shot. Felt like Indiana had to throw out a couple of different game plans in this game and ended up basically just settling on save us, Pascal. And again, he had a really good game.
He almost did.
The Pacers lost his 40 minutes by 9 points. And I'm not doing a big single game plus minus thing, but I do think it lends to the idea of like, okay, if that's all that they're getting, like that's not going to be enough.
Those stats matter more in the playoff settings too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like we're kind of past sample sizes and process. It's like just go find ways to win now.
Doug McDermott 6.5 minutes minus 17. Like again, Pacers played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 guys in this game.
Yeah.
And
that's a tight 9-man with AJ Green only getting 5.
2 of them were either even plus minus or above or plus.
Yeah.
Naismith and Turner. I don't know. They can. I think the other big question for them. We know how we've been through this before on their side of big rotation. It shrinks little by little, but the Giannis effect of not okay. It's like okay, he's not playing. We're not going to expect them for game 2. Obviously, this is always just going to loom over whenever he's missing time, but he's always going to loom over with just how game plans are. But Giannis is not playing game 2.
We don't think.
But I feel like for them, like trying to find this rotation for them without Giannis, without a clear like, okay, we're gonna rely on Isaiah Jackson or Aaron Nesmith despite foul trouble because he's gonna get in foul trouble if Giannis is playing. Like we're gonna ride with you to be that kind of glue guy defender. I think they have it a lot harder. Like I know there's a lot of attention on like not having Buddy Healed, or obviously Mathurin is a key absence in this series for them too. But they just their makeup of their team now is a lot different defensively too. That they haven't been able to kind of corral it all together, even against a Bucks team that they don't have Giannis, they don't have their best player, and that trickles down onto how their rotation will be. But I don't know. Like I don't know if they'll have enough games to kind of figure out that how that rotation will look like. And these could be famous last words.
What are you what are you saying? What are you saying, Jordan?
boy.
I'm just saying they have. I think we said
What do you mean they won't have enough games?
I don't like where this is going. Two things. We got to talk about Splash Mountain dropping some thunder, but two things first. One, everyone live, over 100 of you, thank you first. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please drop a like. There's like 17 likes. Come on, guys. Drop a like. Help us game the algorithm and become rich so we can do this full time, please.
I'm liking right
goal.
now.
Thanks, Jordan. Number two, shout out to our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this playoffs. Basketball season is the most simple way to get in on the action. All you do is select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and submit your lineup. The Bucks winning is extremely fun, but Prize Picks is also a very fun way. You can win up to 100 times your money this basketball season. The stars mean more. Find stars in your lineup to increase your winnings even more. This week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at the playoff basketball board. Give me the demon time Damian Lillard 3 more than. I mean, I don't know what it is, but maybe it'll be too high after this game, but just give it to me anyway. And then I like the Khris Middleton points, rebounds, assists. I sprinkled one of those in today. I lost because I trusted Paul George. But anyway, make sure to check out Prize Picks if you haven't already, because using code EUROSTEP, you can get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. It's free money on us with the deposit. Use code EUROSTEP on the Prize Picks app. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Brook Lopez. Those 2 dunks. First off, probably technically one of them was a charge by the rules, but I'm glad that we're in the playoffs now and at NBA official is willing to be like, that ruled, just play defense, Aaron Nesmith. You got postered and it counts. Because that was incredible. Brook had some slams. I thought Brook had some blocks.
Sneaky
Did
good
as
game.
a -5. I thought it was a very good game. I thought this one, the plus-minus did lie. I thought he played well, and Siakam just nailed a bunch of middies that, again, he walled off the rim, but paid for that. Brook had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks. Listen, I am starting to think, not just the Bucks as a whole, but some specific players more than others, they did the Travis Kelce. They just said, 16-game regular season. No, that would make for some interesting reading of this new album if there was like a Brook Lopez reference tucked in there. I think that the 82-game year season, Brook played a lot, but I think there were a lot of times when it's like, I was like, oh, Brook was a step late to that one. Brook was getting out to blocks in this game. I think he was covering more ground to get to blocks than we have seen in quite some time. And I want to hear was I overreacting? Was I just excited about the playoffs? But to me, this looked like, I think that time off was great for Milwaukee. But I also think some of these vets saved some in the tank for this kind of year. Because Brook is like skying across the lane and swatting stuff out of bounds, where I feel like most of his blocks the second half of the regular season was like, someone meets him up high and he's able to deflect it. I thought he was active and aggressive and played very well in this game.
When Taylor said you wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me, she was talking about Splash Mountain.
Oh, well. Did you have to Google that?
No.
Did you have an advanced copy, Rohan? Is that what you're telling me?
What do you mean an advanced copy?
Did you hear it before it got, if it was on Spotify or other services?
No, it's out.
Oh, I know, but
Oh,
you're
it's like,
remembering the lyrics very quickly.
no, I didn't have to look at anything else. I don't know what you're talking about. Biggest Taylor Swift fan here. But yeah, Brook
How do
Lopez
you feel
just
about the 1830s?
okay. Let's move on. Uh,
I'm hip.
Me and my
uh,
boys playing GTA.
okay. Brook Lopez. Uh, so Brook Lopez, like you were saying, was very
Me and my
impactful.
boys talking about Doc Rivers' ass on a podcast. That should be in the next album. We'll know if she's on the Bucks beat if she drops that on the next album.
So Brook Lopez was very impactful in this game, like you were talking about. I thought he did a great job walling off the rim, like you mentioned, and just in terms of whether it be Pascal Siakam, whether it be forcing Miles Turner to play more of an outside game, whether it's containing drivers, not letting Tyrese Halliburton bend to defense. I thought Brook Lopez did exactly what he needed to do out there on defense. I thought it was a very well executed game plan, and I think Brook Lopez did the best within his role.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm going to fully agree with that, and I think also part of it is the, the if we're keeping up with this theme of Brooke being a tortured poet, um, is that he is always just kind of on an island of like, yeah, we're gonna funnel these drivers towards you, and Brooke, you're gonna do your magic. And at a certain point, it's like he's got to feel like, guys, I can't keep doing this. And I just felt like it just wasn't like obviously his anticipation, his shot blocking ability, everything like that of just kind of walling off the rim was superb today. But the guys in front of him were making it very harder for, whether it's McConnell, obviously Halliburton just kind of looking like a groundhog, not trying to see a shadow helps too. Like they didn't
Ooh.
really force the pressure on the rim as much as we've seen them do in games past this year. And I think that, gives Brooke the ability of like, yeah, I can kind of venture out and play, if it goes against him, it's taking these gambles, but play it the way it did and, getting blocks and stuff like that. Like, I think for him, that's where we see him just shine. And that to me was really huge. Even like, I didn't really agree with this foul, but Miles Turner going in for that crazy dunk that he
Oh
had
yeah,
no
how is that a
business.
foul?
And he's literally just he's walling
Yeah,
him on. Like, I don't know that. I mean, I'm sure we probably see Giannis do it on the other end, but like, I don't know how Burke could play it any differently and still like get a foul, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm fine with it not being a foul on the defender if you poster them, or I mean, not being a foul on the offensive player. If you complete the poster like and you offensive foul, I think it's fine for it to not count. But to
Yeah.
miss and have it be a foul on Brooke, I did not like that. I agree with you. Jordan, what's one thing that stood out to you or that you're just thinking about now, either from this game or heading into game two and the rest of the series? Because I think we've actually pretty much touched on every Buck now, at least a little bit. So what else? What are your other, I guess, takeaways or just things you're thinking about here?
I circling back, I was very apprehensive of the early rotation of okay, they're riding with Malik as the sixth man. He comes in at like what 7 minute mark for Bobby, and I was like, I don't really get it.
I felt the same way live. I was like, I don't get Bees as the sixth man. I don't get going small here, but go on.
And I think a lot of it was, reading all the great work that, this is where everybody steps up, whether it's Eric Name or the people at Journal Sentinel and stuff like that, getting more insights of how they want to play. And there was a lot about like shot discipline, ma- taking the right shots, taking them at the right time, and all that stuff. And Malik has his use, obviously, with this team, but we know how he wants to play. He's like, if I have daylight, I'm gonna throw it up, and usually that is a good decision. The more, especially in playoff time, the more you think about putting up a shot, as the Pacers could attest today, it's not going to work out very well. I just thought for how their rotation was and what they were kind of wanting to achieve, especially going into game one, that was kind of I was just not on board with that rotation. Dame just going nuclear in the first half kind of solved that problem, but then we kind of saw the offense suffer in the third quarter, and just trying to find that balance of, okay, you have the nuclear half and you have the third quarter that you just went cold. Does that affect Beasley's minutes? Because he's going to have his value, obviously hitting threes. I mean, if he had the most, second most threes out of anybody today besides Dame. So you're going to need him to hit shots like that. But I think for the overall value of just trying to, move forward and build on what you did in game one, I would like to see a little bit more balance with that kind of lineup. And maybe it's just a matter of not scoring 14 points in a quarter, but we'll see.
Be nice.
Yeah, I thought I get why they Doc is staggering Bobby and Brook because it's that or Gallo plays as a big, right? I mean, there's not that many options.
Yeah.
But I was surprised it was Bees. I expected either Pat Connaughton or Crowder just to keep more size out there. And I think I'm fine. Middleton at the 4, I'm usually fine with. I don't love the Middleton on Siakam. I think it's just tough for him. I mean, I feel like Khris is either usually guarding someone smaller than him or not as fast, right? So it's either like if it's a big guy, they're slow.
I actually didn't mind it.
I didn't mind it, but also but part of it is I want to save Khris for offense.
Oh.
And you have Jay Crowder. So I just think if this matchup is not an ideal for Jay Crowder in terms of like an opposing star player he can guard, I don't know what is. And I guess then the utility is just like a physical defender who sometimes gets hot, but I don't think his ideal against quicker players, which again like he ends up on Halliburton a few times. I'm like, oh, this is going to be trouble, and it just wasn't. Which I'm still just surprised by that. But yeah, I didn't think Khris was horrible against Siakam, but I would rather just probably conserve him, and I do think Siakam's combo of speed and strength and just being big made it just a little tough for Khris. I mean, Siakam got to his spots. He didn't get to the rim, but he got to his spots where he felt comfortable and he looked comfortable playing against Khris as well. So I'd like to see Crowder, who can be a little more aggressive. I mean, Khris also almost fouled out of this game, which that is part of it as well. Just like
might increase Jay minutes.
Yeah, I think so. But he only had 12, and I was a little surprised by that. I was a little surprised Bees, after losing the starting spot, was that guy, but he played pretty well. I mean, he had the really bad start, I think, and I tweeted like, I'm done with the deal. I'm done with Bees tonight already, but I thought he bounced back from that very nicely. He does, I think, the least impactful full court press I've seen.
Yes.
He's just down there. He's just hanging out down there, and then
he's seen his guys do that in the past. He sees Ajax do that. He sees Pat Bev do that. He's like, man, they must be having fun out there doing that. Let me try it.
I mean, he slowed down the Pacers getting the ball across the middle a couple, and it matters, but it's like I never seriously thought like he was gonna actually get a steal. Maybe he came kind of close once, but he just kind of ran down there and ran back, which I feel like he has slight golden retriever energy, so that's fine. I mean, it gives him something to do out there. But overall, played a good game. I thought Pat Connaughton was good. I thought less blow-bys. I don't know if the Pacers just didn't attack him much, but I don't remember many plays of like, oh, his guy just got right past him again, which had been a problem in the regular season. And knocked down one of his 2 threes. Missed a layup that he really said he was fouled. I couldn't see from the angle, but he really insisted. Also 3 steals. Just kept coming up with the ball, and he's in the right spots.
He was being thrown the ball, which was crazy. Yeah. Like he didn't have to be. The
Pacers have so many white guys. They're like, they got to be on our team.
That was the big thing, and even if it was just like uncontested like turnovers like that, the Bucks like defensively got more deflections against Indiana than they had in any of the 5 games that they played combined. Like that to me, it wasn't just about picking up guys. It was they knew they were really in on like where they were wanting to go with what action, and just that to me, I think again going back to Halliburton, these kind of lazy fair passes that he was making, like it was just like you gotta give a little more oomph in that, but don't listen to me because I want you to lose.
Yeah. Don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it. Just keep doing it. Do it like a little Dijon mustard,
Little dollop?
What?
I've never heard that expression.
Dijon mustard.
I don't think that's an expression. I think Jordan just likes only a little bit of Dijon mustard.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Take a trip to France. Is there any French players in
In this series,
Series?
I don't think so.
Um,
No,
Anyone
I
from
was
Dijon?
gonna make a joke, but I think it's better that I don't.
that may be the case.
Yeah.
Rohan,
Hi,
two
Ty.
questions. Two questions. One, what is the key to the Bucks winning the second game 2 of this series? And two, what is your approach to Giannis in all of this? Part of me wonders, like, do you just sit him until Indiana wins a game? And I'm not saying rush him back if Indiana wins.
I'll answer your second one first. You sit him until Indiana wins 2. That's my sort of barometer for this. If Indiana gets 2, then you can think about bringing Giannis back. If you're able to win without Giannis, you need to do it. You need to do that as much as possible. You need to let him heal as long as possible. You don't want to have to rush him back. If Indiana wins 2, then it's just sort of like, okay, Giannis, like if you're ready to come back, we'll happily take you back.
To be clear, the implication for this whole convo is none of us want to rush Giannis back before he's ready, but it's just I'm sure there's some determination of like, yeah, you could play now, but we'd love to give you more time. Like I'm sure there's some sort of window there, and I certainly think, if you're up 2-0, I'm not bringing him back for sure until game 4 at the absolute earliest, because it's just like you have almost nothing to lose. And I don't even hate saying just giving like both of the Indiana. If you win game 2 and he doesn't play until game 5, that's like just fine. You win 2 more home games and you're good, and you got him so much rest at that. I'm not trying to get ahead of game 2, but just thinking about the strategy of this to maximize the recovery period. This one is massive, of course. If they can get just one more of these first 4, even bigger. I think if you win 1 in Indiana, that's maybe you get a little greedy then. I don't know. Not looking that far ahead. I'm not assuming that happens.
One game at a time.
Ifs
game
and
at a time.
buts. Ifs and buts.
Ifs and Doc Rivers. It's
Nice.
All
right, keys to game 2 then, because we're looking to. I think we're on the same page though of like, let the urgency. If you get, it's more not about rushing him back, but if you can get extra time, you take it.
Okay, keys to game 2. We talked about Dame early on. Obviously, you can't expect him to have the same performance he did today in game 1. You can't expect that first half performance again.
I was going to say, you could probably expect the aggregate though.
Yeah, the aggregate maybe.
You could get another 35-point performance. I think that's doable.
For Dame, yes. For playoff Dame, by the way, playoff Dame as advertised. I don't know if we just talked about that, but man, that dude's a Milwaukee Buck. That's crazy.
I got another tweet. Most points in a playoff debut with the Bucks: 36 for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 36 for Gary Brokaw, finally, and 35 for Damian Lillard. Yes, Gary Brokaw.
Is that real? I've never heard of this person. Wait, it's very rare that I've never heard of a Buck.
Gary Brokaw, this is probably, let me guess.
Wow.
Yes, it was during the 75-76 season.
Gary Brokaw.
The first post-Kareem year.
Do you know what he averaged in the regular season that year?
I'm looking
17.
at his
8.
Yes.
What?
What happened? He scored 36 his first game, then 37 in the next 2 combined, and then 20 in the next 3 combined after that.
That's actually most points he's scored in an NBA game, by the way, too.
Oh, this is 2 different years. His playoff career is a downward trend. I didn't do it right. 36 his first ever playoff game. 17 in the next one. 10, then 12. He went up a little. Then 5, then 3. This is in the span of 2 years. This is not like a decade apart. This is 1 year, then the next year.
That's crazy. But Dame, I guess, sits third in playoffs.
Yeah, third with 35.
You can't. It's hard to catch Gary Brokaw.
Yeah, let's put some respect on Gary Brokaw's name. Come on, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Doc's courtside position, and we're talking about Gary Brokaw. So those are my keys to game 2.
But
that'll be on the tweet. We broke down game 1, including Doc's pose and Gary Brokaw.
But keys to game 2.
Talking about a rear window. Sorry.
Oh.
Keys to game two.
Someday Rohan will get to share these keys to game two.
You can't expect that kind of performance from Damian Lillard in a half again. But can you exploit what Indiana's going to be doing in that game two? I imagine they're going to be coming out of the gate employing the same defense that they did in the second half because it limited Dame. He didn't score in that second half. You see that constant ball pressure, 94 feet, doubling him as soon as he gets the inbound. Can you maximize that 4-on-3 play? Are your players fast enough to be able to maximize that 4-on-3 play? Can you make that happen? That's going to be a key to the game. Taking advantage of the advantages that Indiana is giving you when you have these mismatches, when you're sending two to Dame right away because you're so scared of it. Which, by the way, is just great. That's awesome. That's so cool. That's a Bucks point guard in the playoffs, by the way. That's
I
crazy.
can't remember the last time I saw, not even just Bucks, just anyone, doubled on the inbound 92 feet away for like a whole half. That's crazy.
It is insane. But another key to the second half is, can you limit Tyrese Halliburton again? Is your defense set up to be able to wall off the rim, to be able to sort of not let your defense get sucked in, not let him create off the catch, off the dribble, and sort of take advantage? Can you limit Tyrese Halliburton again? Can you hold him under 10 points again? Maybe not, but can you limit his performance? I think this Bucks defense is absolutely capable of doing that. They have a lot of guys like Pat Bev will get under his skin again. They will be able to send multiple bodies. They'll be able to take advantage of Indiana's tendency to be a jump shooting team and not let them get to the rim and not let them take a lot of wide open outside shots. Like, that's what succeeds in the playoffs. That's why this Bucks team has had playoff success in the past. You wall off the rim, you don't allow a lot of outside shots. Usually they've only done one or the other. In the game one, they did both. Are they going to be able to do both again?
Yeah.
That's a key.
Yeah, I think being able to adjust. I do think Indiana, especially in the second half, and they knocked down a few, but I think they got some of the corner threes, especially when Bobby was in the corner and trying to help down on drives. And again, you took away the rim, like that mission was complete. But I think Turner knocked down a couple in quick succession. He ended up 3 for 10. It didn't exactly kill the Bucks, but I think, can you adjust if Indiana doesn't shoot 8 for 31? Or I mean, they were, I think, even worse than you would expect given the way the Bucks defended them. I agree. Like, it wasn't like a complete outlier. Like, they weren't getting great shots and just missing. But they'll hit higher percentages than this. So I think you probably will have to adjust at some point. And like, can you run them off the 3-point arc without totally losing the paint defense? We've seen the Bucks do that to teams. It helps to have Giannis though. It's challenging without Giannis. I think they could probably. I think Bobby Portis is going to be a huge factor in game two. Because I think we're going to see the attention on Dame. We're going to always see attention on Khris. Bobby, as that next guy on offense, has to be really good. And I think this has to be the baseline of Bobby Portis' offense without Giannis, what we saw in this game. He had 15 points on 15 shots. That's that in the playoffs, when it's really hard to get any points, you'll absolutely take that from Bobby Portis. That's great. But can Bobby Portis have a game where he knocks down some threes and is even more efficient, getting right up to the rim more versus relying on the jumper? That would help a lot, because I do think we're going to see more attention on Dame, and the way to free him back up is to, one, just knocking down threes, and two, other guys stepping up and showing the Pacers, all right, we can't just single cover and leave these the rest of our team, at a disadvantage because we're sending so much help to Dame. So I really think Bobby's a big part of that, and then just shooters, especially if AJ Green gets more run, got to knock down the open ones. You help defensively, but you're a shooter, you got to knock down the open ones.
AJ Green's not like a big part of this, but I do wonder if he can't just find it that we see more Ajax and they just live with, hey, we're going to use you as kind of a perimeter defender, have it be a little easier for Pat Bev so he can, take a little breather and not take Halliburton if he's on the floor, or even TJ McConnell. Like, I think that's the thing rotation wise, but clearly offensively, it's just, for me, it's Dame, because you get 35 points in one half, or you get 0 points in one half. What does it look like when it's more in the middle, like in the aggregate, as you mentioned? Does that mean setting screens really high and you kind of just work a longer runway and do a lot of pitch, like that kind of thing? I'm sure that's probably what they're anticipating and what they're going to work on next and stuff like that. But like that full court pressure in the past, that's not done the Bucks any favors, especially against Miami last year. But with a guy like Dame, who were a lot of highs with that this year, and it's like, oh yeah, like this is why he's a gifted point guard and one of the best players ever in NBA history. But then you also see his limitations, and I'm very eager to see how they kind of maintain everything that they were looking for going into the series of like shot discipline, just making sure everybody touches the ball, working, one-on-one. And now this with just getting doubled or having Indiana play where they want to have the ball out of Dave's hands. There's going to be a lot of interesting ways to work that around. It puts more onus, like you said, on Bobby, Brook, obviously Khris, Pat Bev to be able to kind of initiate, but also find the guys in the right spots and stuff like that. Like they're going to have to work harder for baskets than they had to do for, would say, 2.5 quarters today, maybe 3. So that to me is the big thing of the offense has to be really crisp, not just Khris Middleton, for their defense to look as good as it was.
Any other thoughts, or should we do game 2 predictions?
I think it's game 2 prediction time. I think it's score prediction time, everyone.
Oh, I shouldn't have said anything.
Jordan, what's your score prediction game 2?
I'm gonna go.
What did I do? What to deserve that?
Just let him do it.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I think Halliburton playing the way they did today, I sense something bigger at play there. There's
it's been a trend. I mean, it's not like this came out of nowhere.
It's just the post All-Star trend.
But I just did not anticipate it being that
I didn't think
bad.
it would be like this either. I mean, he had some better games than this to be in the regular season. I mean, I agree with you. I was very surprised by it.
I'm going to go Bucks 105, Pacers 99.
Under 100 twice in a row would be crazy.
I do think the Bucks playing as slow as they did.
That's a good point.
I think that suits
them more. It lends itself more towards a low-scoring game, which is why, in my score prediction, I will also echo Jordan's sentiment of holding the Pacers under 100 again. Or that's tough. That is tough. I will say Bucks 110-102.
That's pretty close to where I was going to go. I guess that is a point for like the full court press with Bees, like just slowing them down, then being able to get into the half court. It does serve, even if it's just 3 seconds, it does serve a purpose. I won't retract the golden retriever part because that is the energy he gives me, but I will retract it being useless. I will say 111 to 107 Bucks. I think it's a little closer.
Yeah.
I think Dame doesn't score 0 in the second half, though, and that ends up being the difference. So we all pick Bucks, so they're going to get blown out, which is too bad. But no, I do think it's easier to feel better. I mean, it's not all going to be sunshine and roses with no Giannis playing in this early part of the series, but it was such a big win, and I think even beyond just like the fact that they're up 1-0, the way they played, I mean, it's as much as I hate the discourse of it, there was a switch flipped. Like the intensity, the execution was just better. I even like defensively, it's more clear, I think, based on some of their bad games that like, okay, yeah, they're getting out to shooters, like they're making guys drive, they're really playing aggressive without fouling too much, although we did have some guys in foul trouble, or the Bucks did, I should say. I thought offensively too. I think like early on, it was like, oh, it's a lot of ISO here. I don't really like this. And then once they really got cooking, they moved the ball a lot. And it's like, okay, this is good. This is how you have to play against this Indiana team. You got to move the ball. You got to find great shots, not good shots, and just use up a lot of the possession. So overall, Newmark is for golden. We all know. But overall, I thought the Bucks' approach was great, and I thought it was consistent. And now it's like, can they keep this up for the whole playoff run? But I feel pretty good that they can, because I think at least most of the rotation, it's like guys who have been here before many, many times, know what it takes. Many of them have won a title together. This is the time of the year everyone was waiting for, and it looked like that for the Bucks, which was reassuring.
It was very reassuring. I mean, how could you not be reassured by the way this performance went? Shout out Glorilla.
Yeah, glow. I just tweeted that when Dame was going off. I was, yeah, glow.
Glow on, right? Is that the phrase? I don't know.
No.
I'm old.
And on that note,
did you see she made the Glow Lillard jersey?
I did.
When is she coming to a playoff game?
And she better be at game 2.
Imagine if the Bucks just announced right now, halftime performance, game 2, Glorilla. They should.
I mean, if they bump Steve Max in his Simon Says, performance, I would be mad. I'd be mad.
What if it's the foot archer lady?
That is an impressive halftime act.
That is impressive.
That is
also an impressive pull because that was on a playback a year ago or whatever it was. That was amazing. Red Panda, amazing Slottick.
They could pull Slottick. They could pull Red Panda too. I'm sorry. An all-time great.
Hall of Famer?
We're not all LeBron.
That is fair. Sometimes you're just Pat. But Red Panda's been on a bit of a heater recently, I will say.
Has she?
Yeah.
Is she back?
She's back.
Is she on the Horford regimen?
She went to Germany. Who knows? But on that note, I think we can wrap it up. Say thank you to everyone who's joined in live here on YouTube for this post-game Eurostep Win in 6 collab here on GSPN. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on for the YouTube in case we do go live. We do like to do that more in the postseason. That's fun. I didn't know that was a thing. We're tied with a thumbs up. But yeah, make sure you're subscribed wherever you find your podcast. If you're listening to this on your podcast platform of choice or on YouTube, whether live or after the fact, make sure you check out gspn.info for all of our links. We're going to have you covered with a game. For every game, we'll have a post-game pod for you, plus some stuff in between. Who knows? I mean, Jordan and Ty have been writing on our Substack. Great stuff. Make sure you check that out. Also, NFL drafts next week, Jordan. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, but make sure you listen to Talk of the Tundra for all that fun stuff about the NBA or NFL draft. Wow. Cruising for a bruising. The Brewers are they're cruising for a bruising, I'll tell you that much.
Did they just sweep?
Did they? I believe they did.
Yes, they did.
The Cards?
They swept the St. Louis Cardinals the first time in
Blake
like 5
Perkins
years.
with a home run saving catch.
Dude, Big Perk is the real superstar in the Brewers outfield.
Carry on in that outfield.
Wow.
The real perk. The most important perk there is. But
Even bigger perk.
I would agree.
Is that possible?
No. As someone who's seen him in person, hell no. Here's what I would say to Kendrick Perkins on behalf of all Bucks fans.
You hang out with Perk?
If I saw here's what I would say. Got Bucks fans say, "Nice to meet you, sir. I'm a big fan of your work." He's huge, dude.
When have you met Perk?
At a Herd game. He was on you've not heard the story. He was on the Cleveland Charge.
Oh, I do.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was yelling encouragement because he was like in a mentorship role. He was not playing. He went to get popcorn and just walking back like in the concourse right behind me. He's yelling to a Charge big, and his voice just booms. I almost crapped my pants, dude. It was very scary. I had no idea he was behind me. You see this thunderous, get him. That wasn't a good Perk impression. It's hard to do a Perk yell because the Perk impression is not usually a yell. But yeah, he's a big guy.
Fair enough. I mean, shout out to both Perks, I guess. But thanks for listening. Pod Random, and we'll talk to you next time.